Good afternoon. To the perception of people or the perception of wilderness, when the mind is only on the earth. There's only this modicum of stress, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of earth. And furthermore, they understand, so here's the insight. This field of perception is empty of the perception of people. It's empty of the perception of wilderness. So that's the emptiness. There's only this that is not emptiness, namely the oneness dependent on the perception of earth. So they regard it as empty of what is not there, but as to what remains, they understand that it is present. This is how emptiness manifests in them, genuine, undistorted, and pure. So that's the pattern of the meditation. In the sutta that we read last week, they went from earth and to the perception of space, of infinite space. Now that could seem to be like a gigantic leap in practice. It seems not too difficult for the average meditator, probably. Any one of us who's here in this program today is able to develop meditation on the earth element. It's a very well-known practice and something that's very familiarized, noticing the earth element inside, the earth element outside, and earth element in both. Seeing the earth just in the very simple term of whatever's earthy like the earth, like dirt, or like a mountain, like a rock, like your skull, like your teeth, like the flesh of the body has got that aspect of that earthiness. So with that earthy quality includes, in particular, having an extension, something which is earthy is occupying a certain amount of space. It's filling up that space. So then, if you took, look, I'm looking in front of me. I'm here outside at the outdoor sala. Well, we could look in this direction. So there's a certain amount of space which is occupied by this marble statue of the Buddha. Then, if you took away the marble, there would be an empty space in exactly that form of that Buddha, that much space that was previously full of marble. If you ignore the marble, what you have left is space. And so that's how you get from the earth element to the space element. The space element then is taking us into what are called the formless meditations. It's probably certainly implied that one has obtained samadhi, that one has obtained the level of the jhana in this practice, in order to come over to the formless meditation, and then following exactly that process, you eliminate earth. You have left space. You notice that space is here, and earth is not there. Then, taking away space, or what's left is consciousness or mind. This is almost theoretical for one who's not experienced it directly, but you certainly can notice that in the ordinary state of mind, when you try to say, what is this cognition, this cognizing, this consciousness, one can hardly be aware of cognizing without at that very same instant being aware of an object, which is the object which is being cognized. So the cognition and the object are coming together, and that's creating that moment of consciousness. So if and these objects are coming along at a rapid sequence. There's probably many millions and billions of moments throughout the day that one is encountering different kinds of objects, and different moments of consciousness are streaming along, connected and sparked by those moments of consciousness. So there's so much activity in that, so much the arising and ceasing of those moments of awareness. But then, if one were able to ignore the object, then consciousness is simple. It's just the mind itself without any object. And then it goes even beyond that to ignore this consciousness, this cognizing activity, this cognizing faculty, and then you come to nothingness. And then ignore the nothingness. And you come to an even more subtle dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. Now, here's where I want to pick up and start to read the sutta again. Having gone past that, these are like three of the what's called the formless meditations. Uh, uh, I'm going to share the screen now. Now, a mendicant, ignoring the perception of the dimension of nothingness, perception of the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception, focuses on the oneness dependent on the signless immersion of the heart. Signless in Pali is animitang. Nimitta is called a sign. Animita is signless. Uh, Chaito, Bhante Sujata translated as heart. Some people would translate it as the mind. And then samadhi is often translated as concentration. He's translating it as the immersion, being immersed in deep meditation. And this has a quality of oneness. So, uh, this Ceto Samadhi is an attainment in meditation. And what this means is that the mind is not reaching out to grasp onto or to take hold of any kind of perception, or not reaching out to give a special focus on any kind of object, but instead, probably it means that the mind has withdrawn from thinking, and so the mind is not getting involved with objects whatsoever. Uh, so there are other aspects to the way the Buddha teaches about the nimitta, or the signs, which are, I think, maybe for the people in this room, even more immediately useful than wanting to go to the state of meditation where thinking stops altogether. One idea that I have here is that the sign, we're taught, because everybody has heard so much about the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, which was composed in the 5th century of the Common Era, and which emphasizes the sign as being a particular kind of object. So he says that when you obtain jhana meditation, that there could be a arising of the nimitta of meditation, and it would be something like a moon or a candle or a wisp of cotton or something like that. And that may be a kind of even a misunderstanding of what the Buddha was speaking about in terms of the sign of meditation. But nimitta has got other meanings besides sign of meditation. One meaning of a nimitta is a trigger, or the proximate cause of something else to arise. So when a bhikkhu or a person sees a particular object with the eye, if the sign of the beautiful arises, this could be the proximate cause for desire and lust to come up in him, and for the mind to be pulled into different kinds of proliferation. So grasping, the arousing of the sign and the grasping is very strongly connected to each other. In my little bit of reading I've done about psychology, and especially the psychology of emotions and how what emotions do to the brain, I got the understanding that part of the arousing of an emotional reaction, that's a trigger, isn't it, is that something is impinging on the mind. It could be seeing something beautiful and the sign of the beautiful arises, or it could just be that one hasn't had a meal in several hours, and because of the bodily process, the sign of hunger arises internally. Or it could be, any number of of a million different kinds of things. But there's a there's a moment when there's some kind of arousal, which is it's related to the mind and body together becoming ready to react to something. And part of that reaction is the focusing of awareness. So if you saw a snake or if you saw a ghost, the eyes would open up and probably your blood would leave the core of the body and go out to the extremities of the limbs, and you would be turning your awareness and your hearing would all of your senses would be activated and aimed at that particular object which is caught onto your attention. And the reason I said that the blood has gone out from the core to the limbs is because the body is getting ready to run away or do something. And so part of that preparation that's involved with that triggering, with that proliferation, with that reactivity is also including the way that the vijnana factor, the consciousness or the cognition, is averting towards an object, which is important for some reason. So then when we come to the animitta samadhi, the samadhi without this nimitta, I believe then that would say that the mind is not uh, uh, taking those kind of triggers. It's not turning towards this object or that object because the trigger is not being pulled. But there's something that to me I think is even interesting about this. This animitta samadhi, it's not exactly this. It's not really said to be the same thing as the breakthrough to enlightenment. But it is a kind of meditation which is practiced by arahants. So those who are enlightened are able to practice this kind of meditation. And it seems to me that the opposite of something which is a proximate cause would be the uncaused, the unconditioned. And so if one is realized the unconditioned, if one has realized Nibbana in this very life, then indeed wouldn't it be the easiest and most natural thing for a pleasant abiding to refresh the body and mind, to take some time and to abide in the unconditioned, in the animitta, in that sense of being unconditioned. Uh, So nimitta has that quality of being a characteristic by which we recognize something. And of course, it's a blessing, a very practical blessing to be able to have the mind select out one or two simplified characteristics of a situation in order to recognize what's happening and what we should do about it. So if you know, the characteristic of saltiness, and if you're cooking lunch, you would know whether it needs more salt or it has too much salt, because you can recognize that sign. And if you know the characteristic of the Four Noble Truths, because you studied them, pondered them, reflected on them, and cultivated your own direct experience about how these patterns arise and can be recognized in your own life, then when something happens and the state of mind arises or the state of mind shifts, if you've trained your perception in that way to recognize the characteristic, you would know which one of the Four Noble Truths is present right now. And so then if you know that I'm experiencing dukkha, then you know this dukkha should be fully understood. And if you're experiencing the end of dukkha, you would know that this end of dukkha, or the absence of dukkha, should be experienced. Or if you experience something and you recognize, oh, this is an aspect of the path of training, then when you've trained your perception that way, you know what to do. So in that way, it's very, very convenient, very useful, very helpful along the path to have trained perceptions, well-trained perceptions that are in accord with the training of what we're trying to do. But then at the end, all of this progress, and we realize that we go beyond being part of a self-help program. Buddhism is not just about doing your homework. The Dhamma is about the realization. And when the realization is complete, then it's time to one would be capable of this signless immersion of the heart. So they understand there's no stress due to the perception of the dimension of nothingness, or the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. Only this modicum of stress, namely that related to the six sense fields, depending on this body and conditioned by life. So in that sense, the person who is no longer reaching out for any of the of these nimittas, of these signs, nevertheless, they are not a zombie. They're not unconscious. They're still aware of having being in a living body. They understand this field of perception is empty of these other meditations: perception of the dimension of nothingness, perception of dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. Only this that is not emptiness namely that related to the six sense fields. So they regard it as empty of what is not there, but as to what is present, they understand that it is present. This is how emptiness manifests in them, genuine, undistorted, and pure. Ignoring the perception of the dimension of nothingness, the perception of neither perception or non-perception, focusing on oneness, depending on the signless immersion of the heart. Their mind leaps forth, gains confidence, settles down, becomes decided in that signless immersion of the heart. Then we come to this is sort of like the Vipassana end of Samadhi meditation. We see this, a very similar statement, very often mentioned when the Buddha is describing the more deeper levels of meditation. They understand even this signless immersion of the heart is produced by choices and intentions. So, abhisankato, that's like a higher kind of a choice. And abhisancetaito, sancetana is an intention. Abhisancetana would be a very specialized meditative intention. So it's not like that, I intend to have a meeting after the end of this session, but more within the stillness of meditation. The intentions that are formed in directing awareness, keeping awareness alive, keeping all of the factors of meditation operating in a balanced way in order to sustain the meditation. But they understand that whatever is produced by choices and intentions is impermanent, liable to cessation. Knowing and seeing like that, their mind is freed from the desire, from these three defilements, or the asava, sometimes called a taint or the stain. These asava are the basic, most fundamental things that are keeping us tied down into this round of rebirth, into this samsaric realm. When the asavas are destroyed, that's when a person has the breakthrough to enlightenment. So their mind is freed from the asava of sensuality, from the asava of becoming or of existence, or here it's saying the desire to be reborn, and from the asava of ignorance or not knowing, avidya, not knowing. And then from those three stains, the mind is freed. You might remember before we were talking about how some of the other practitioners, spiritual seekers at the Buddha's time, his contemporaries, were very worried about what was going to happen to their eternal soul, because they felt that if a person does, or if a being, whether it be a person or an animal, or a ghost or any kind of being, that if they do unskillful, unwholesome, harmful, evil things, that those actions leave a stain, a kind of a stain on the soul, and they don't know how to get rid of it. They don't know how to they're very, speculating of this theory, that theory, this theory, about how it comes that this eternal soul possessed by a person can become purified of that which is left behind because of their previous karma. And this here, right here, is telling us exactly how that purification happens. And it's because of insight. It's not because of um, uh, tormenting oneself. It's not because of doing a lot of good deeds and building up merits. Uh, it's it's not because of just simply sitting here and waiting for the passage of time to pass along until the string. There's a metaphor that you've got a ball of yarn and you throw it. You're like holding one end, and the ball of yarn is unwinding and unwinding as the ball of yarn rolls down the hill. And when it comes to the end, it comes to the end of the string, then that's finished, then that karma is finished, and the purification has been complete. So it's not any of those things. In the Buddhist teaching, it's the knowing and the seeing. Knowing, seeing what? Seeing that whatever is produced by causes, by choices and intentions, is impermanent and liable to cessation. From really seeing it, that's where freedom comes to be. And when they're freed, they know they're freed. They understand rebirth is ended. The spiritual journey has been completed. That what had to be done has been done. There's nothing further for this place. And now it's coming back to the same pattern. They understand here there's no stress due to those three defilements, the defilement of sensuality, desire to reborn, or ignorance. So that's the Arahant is empty of those three kinds of stress. There's only this modicum of stress, namely that related to the six sense fields dependent on this body and conditioned by life. So that means that as long as this life exists, you have to put up with the body, you've got to feed it and brush the teeth and experience aches and pains and go to the toilet and all the things that are necessary as far as life. They understand this field of perception is empty of the perception of the defilement of sensuality, desire for rebirth, and ignorance. There is only this that is not emptiness, namely that related to the sixth sense field dependent on this body. So they regard it as empty of what is not there, but as to what remains, they understand that it is present. This is how emptiness manifests in them. Genuine, undistorted, pure, and supreme. So the Buddha is not even yet advising to think that you're replacing something with nothing. You're empty of the negativities, and still what remains is still what's present. Whatever ascetics or Brahmins enter and remain in this pure, ultimate, supreme happiness, whether past, future, or present, all of them enter and remain in this same pure, ultimate, supreme happiness. So you should train like this. We will enter and remain in the pure, ultimate, supreme emptiness. That's how you should train. That's what the Buddha said. Satisfied Venerable Ananda approved of what the Buddha said.